Yeah, so as I was saying, for the average person, I would say you will want to eat somewhere between 50 to 100 milligrams of protein per day. And that's, and then you want to get a substantial amount of vitamins and minerals. So you have to look up the individual amount of vitamin C. And so for the vitamin C, it's 80 milligrams per day, depending on your body weight. But that's that's for the men, right? So, and for calcium, it's like 1,000 milligrams per day. And there are foods that are quite rich in calcium. You can get that. It's not that difficult, especially if you eat foods like kelp. Then it's a little easier. Uh, just making sure you get that substantial amount of vitamins and minerals every single day is going to be important. And then you're following that cycle of initiate the breath to prepare for consumption, create the damp environment inside the body to absorb the nutrients, generate friction to break down and activate the nutrients. So exercise, or obviously drink teas if you can't exercise. Then eat proper amounts of vitamins and minerals to build the body. And that's the cycle that you will continue to go in over it and over it again. There's a chart, a diagram that I kind of drew just to give it like some kind of visual, but I'll just show it at the end with the other ones that I kind of made. So these proper breathing methods are used to energize the blood with oxygen and initiate circulation before drinking, as well as establish a general sense of calmness, which relieves the neuronic strain. So it's going to relieve, tension in the nerves. This allows for optimal physical efficiency as neurons relay information throughout the entire cellular structure, controlling chemical electrical actions/reactions. Okay, I wrote all of this down. Everything that I researched, I just wrote it all down. Like, so for the past 7 years, everything this is like a very condensed combination of that. So yeah. Information, let me see. This allows for the optimal physical efficiency. Optimal physical efficiency as neurons relay information throughout the entire cellular structure, controlling the chemical electric actions/reactions. The more focused and relaxed the neurons are, the better they operate, and they relax the organs so they operate better as a whole, improving all functions. Okay. Proper hydration to create an ecology of biologically harmonious activity. Think body as a forest. It needs swamps, rivers, lakes to help support circulation and hold nutrients like life forms, fish, like it would be in the river or a lake or something like that, swamps. Food, regardless of water content, takes water to process due to requirements of circulation, digestion, storage, genetic deconstruction and reconstruction, waste removal, balancing acids, immune support, and therefore requires us to maintain a steady dampness of the body for optimal efficiency. The more hydrated we are, the more of a choice the body has in how it performs chemical activity due to its ability to mediate its processes. There are mosquitoes out here. Mediate its processes more thoroughly as we get into liquid nutrient absorption. I explain that further. Water allows for optimal electrical discharge throughout the body because water conducts electricity. Therefore, in healing the body, especially of genetic inhibition, it's imperative to maintain proper liquid levels, specific to the healing enhancements that must be carried forth. This goes beyond simple hydration into the fundamental strategic application of moisture at specific intervals throughout the process. So what that means is that you have to know exactly when to drink water, like, more than a normal person. So you're going to be drinking more water than a normal person, obviously. We discussed that. And drinking water, you got to get more in tune with your physiology through the breath work and things like that. It's important in order to heal yourself, because this is not like the doctor's information like that you would get at the hospital. This is the kind of information that comes from, I researched through the pain that it took for me to not know these things, to understand how to implement them properly in formats. So I did a lot of passing out and having seizures and stuff like that in order to actually reach the point where it's all okay, I understand. And then when I breathe, and I even had to breathe through some of those serious circumstances. So that's where a lot of this information came from. Now, the use of activity strategically is imperative in the healing and enhancement process. Activity stimulates friction of the cells, which maximizes the absorption of vitamins, proteins, minerals, through the production of acid, which helps to forcibly break down that which water has trouble eroding and circulating. As one may be aware, there are water and fat-soluble vitamins and minerals. Therefore, knowing the order in which to consume foods is highly important. Drinking teas such as red clover, hibiscus, wormwood, oregano and thyme tea, cardamom, reishi mushroom, fennel seed, nettle leaf, and dandelion teas at max 1 hour before dinner consumption, with light cardio exercise, will support maximum nutrient absorption. It is to be noted that if consuming nettle, one will need extra water, as nettle supports the excretion of harmful toxins from the body, which can lead to dehydration in areas where the climate is like the desert, because those toxins are released in liquid, which means that nettle may also cause you to release the water you consume. When drinking red clover or hibiscus, be sure to replenish the iron levels, as these will support blood detoxification and cellular renewal, which may result in lower iron levels. Due to cellular combustion, it burns off the iron as fuel, which will periodically cause a rise in body temperature, which is useful when it's cold outside, if you keep reconsuming the iron, though. Avoid leaving wormwood sitting in hot or cold water for over an hour. It could possibly ferment, this is true, and become alcoholic, therefore toxic. However, prompt consumption of wormwood, that is pretty much immediately after you make it into tea, is highly beneficial to nutrient absorption, parasite annihilation, and cellular detoxification. It's important to understand the proper balance of rest and exercise, as too much exercise without proper allocation of dietary nutrition will impair the healing process by not allowing the full replenishment of daily every vital nutrient and mineral. So every vital vitamin and mineral needs to be replaced at the increment at which it is lost. And with genetic disorders, oftentimes we lose one thing way more than another thing. It's important to know to balance your exercise so that you don't burn it off accidentally before you go to sleep, because you're going to need it to heal while you're asleep. A lot of healing does happen in our sleep. I must stress the importance of not being foolhardy in this case, as it takes a self-master to functionally apply nutrients precisely to oneself. That means knowing exactly how much of a food to eat on your own without someone telling you, because you need a specific amount of vitamin C. It's going to take a lot to get that right. And it's painful if you don't know what you're doing. And it's silly if just don't do it that way. This is a better way to functionally apply nutrients precisely to oneself and avoid causing worse damage to the body. that will set back the healing process. Also, your favorite or preferred food, unless it's applicable by nutritional value, means nothing in this scenario, as one will be required to likely lower the consumption of or cease entirely the consumption of certain foods in order to properly heal. Depending on the food, one may never be able to eat it again lest the symptoms of disease return. So that would be for many people who have genetic disorders or any kind of disease at all, really, even sometimes just a flu, meat, any food that has gluten, wheat, barley and rye and things like that, things that jam up the system usually for people. And many people will say that it doesn't, but it does. It takes a toll, and it's been known scientifically, it's been proven that those things shorten your lifespan. So it's not something to argue about. Of course, I'm not going to tell anybody what to eat, because I'm not here to give you the doctor's information. I'm here to give you the science, like the life scientist information, like the information from somebody who I fell down enough times to get back up to tell you how not to fall down. If you fall down, shoot. I didn't say do that thing. But at the same time, I can't tell you not to do that thing either. So, because they'll come for me. Nah, maybe not. But, the point is that that's the way it is. So, finally, there is consumption of food, which is indulgence in the electromagnetic substance of the ecosystem that is applicable for human biological structuring. This food is to support the activation, formulation, and combustion of genetic material. Certain foods, such as fruit especially, serve to activate mechanisms in the genetic mainframe by charging them electrically. Other foods, such as raw honey, cacao, not cocoa, cocoa is too processed, spirulina, chlorella, kelp, avocado, sea moss, sunflower and pumpkin seeds, rolled oats, apple cider vinegar, functional mushrooms, i.e. lion's mane, reishi, shiitake, maitake, cordyceps, adaptogens, i.e. astragalus roots, ginkgo biloba, ashwagandha, etc. All supports the deconstruction and construction of genetic. Flipping the page. Flipping the page. They all supported the deconstruction and construction of genetic material on an expanded, more in-depth level of application, thereby causing the body to apply vitamins and minerals in a more concise and effective manner. These functional foods enhance the body's ability to modulate its frequency patterns more smoothly, allowing for transitions between states like digestion to nutrient absorption to nutrient distribution. This smoothness, the mosquitoes, this smoothness minimizes the loss of nutrients that could have been used, thereby minimizing genetic this smoothness minimizes the loss of nutrients that could have been used, thereby minimizing genetic combination processes and minimizing lack of consumption of a specific nutrient. Oh, that's maximizing genetic combination processes. I'm like minimizing. I guess I got addicted to saying the word minimizing. Okay. So maximizing genetic combination processes and minimizing lack of consumption of a specific nutrient, leading to less electrochemical waste of energy and matter, leading to more productive activity inside the body for necessary processes and a heightened sense of relaxation due to a certain level of internal harmony the body gets when it moves at that level of smoothness. Here we will make a distinction between vegetation such as broccoli, spinach, squash, potatoes, onions, watercress, cilantro, and vegetation such as beans, rice, nuts, and grains. This is due to the fact that some vegetation builds the DNA, whilst others support and maintain the structural integrity of the DNA. Wow, they really eating me up. The structural integrity of the DNA. Protein-rich vegetation builds DNA, whilst others support and maintain the structural integrity of the DNA. So the protein-rich vegetation that builds DNA. Spinach is a complete protein. However, it is more of a supplementary protein, of a complete protein to the genetic structure in a differing format that allows it to be used alternatively. So think of a building where you have all the bricks in place, but there's these small openings that larger proteins such as beans and rice can't fill, but they build the larger parts of your DNA. But they can't fill those small, so you need the smaller vegetations such as spinach, green beans, potatoes, and things like that have also proteins, but they break down into a much finer substance because they're not so dense, right? Then comes, spinach, potatoes, and green beans to help, build that structure completely, that bricks, that house with the bricks, but it needs the small spaces filled in with their alternative format of malleable protein to fill those open spaces and complete the genetic materials. It is also notable that when genetic material requires new patchwork, sometimes it's easier to repair that DNA over time using mostly malleable proteins as a food source while still making sure the daily complete protein requirements, to meet the daily protein requirements, but not going over that requirements, using the malleable proteins for technical genetic support. So consuming those grains, nuts, things that have they're denser proteins, they have way more protein, so you reach your protein requirements. But then you use that spinach and things like that to actually do maintenance on the body after that. So you don't overtly consume and if you're gonna eat meat anyways, any proteins, you don't overtly consume rice or anything like that. You make sure you eat just enough, but then you get plenty of vegetables and fruits. So it is to be noted that supplementary proteins cannot, emphasis on cannot, take the place of functional proteins. Just as you wouldn't put a cheerleader on the football field except as support, you should expect that your body will break down eventually, if not quite quickly, if you try to live without consuming functional proteins to the degree at which your body demands. So everybody's physiology doesn't demand protein the same way. Many people can eat less protein than other people because they don't do as much activity, and they're not from a genetic line of individuals that have been genetically over generations. They've been doing a lot of activity. So a lot of melanated people need to eat more protein than pretty much every other person in the world, because we're, darker skinned people are known, Africans basically, and some indigenous tribesmen from America have been known to be highly physically active people. So our bodies generally bearing off more heat, friction in the cellular structure typically needs more protein. But for people who live possibly in the northern areas, probably don't need as much protein, and they're not as heavy proteins either. So they will be more likely to live on nuts and seeds and things like that a lot easier, than a melanated person of my genetic line would need to likely eat some black rice or something like that, some beans and foods that you kind of got to cook for the most part. Or I don't know if I've ever seen sprouted rice, but I've seen sprouted beans before. So yeah. So just as you wouldn't put a cheerleader on the field, you to create a body. All right. It is also to be noted that although vitamins such as C, A, and B6 do enhance the ability of proteins to build genetic material, they do not multiply proteins. They only enhance them. Therefore, one must still consume the required functional protein amount. However, Through constantly meeting this demand, it's possible to learn to manage one's genetic structure more uh, well enough to do things such as fast in a safe manner on just fruits, and eventually fruits and supplementary proteins, because you'll be more eventually aware of yourself. You'll be more self-aware of when your body cells require functional proteins in order to not shorten your lifespan or worsen any genetic diseases, as all genetic disorders are solved partially by the proper consumption of supplementary and functional proteins. So by the proper consumption of supplementary and functional proteins. What is that? That off of there. Okay. As it applies to how the relationship between electromagnetism and air, oxygen and hydrogen, affect the consumption process within the body. That transitional stage is the moment you consume a food. It utilizes oxygen and hydrogen stored in the blood for a myriad of processes, some of which are the chemical combustion, generating more electricity to use as energy for the body. After consuming the daily meal, it's important in a healing process to employ proper breath work for subtle combustion and circulation of vitamins and minerals. This helps to relax the vascular system by supplying the blood with more oxygen, which helps to relax the brain. And when the brain is relaxed, the rest of the neurons of the body tend to operate more effectively at healing the cells during sleep. The Chinese have a very in-depth understanding of this concept and have developed many methods of using this knowledge to enhance physiological growth and recovery. Acupuncture, Tai Chi Chuan, and Qigong are excellent, more easily accessed examples of this. A lot of what I've learned while doing research on my own self-healing has deep roots in Chinese culture, I found out. After I learned a lot of these things, I found in that the Chinese have been practicing these things for 4,000, 6,000 years. I say, what? Wow, if I would have just looked up Chinese literature, then I may have already found the answer. Not exactly, but it would have helped quite a bit. I do apologize. I'm going to have to simply make a part two of this and then post two videos because my phone will not record much longer. It'll probably get to about 27 minutes and then cut out. So, because I don't have a lot of, what is that? I don't have a memory card. So, yeah, without a memory card, I can't. But I can just post the video and then record the other half of the video and then posting it too. As I wrote 20 plus whole pages of like all of this data. So everything that I understand from my perspective based on what it is that I've learned from implementing it though, not things that I read online and stuff like that, because a lot of people would say, did you just look all of that up? I was, I was like, wow. Yeah, I looked it up and then implemented it and looked it up and then implemented it and then looked it. But the only things that I actually looked up was what do certain vitamins and minerals do and things like that and all of that, and implemented those things into my progressive stages, what foods to not eat. You know what I'm saying? What additives in certain foods like carrageenans that they have in certain foods. I was learning slowly but steadily. I don't eat soy lecithin, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. And I didn't pretty much move to the point where I won't even eat it if I didn't cook it. And that's an energy thing because this has also been a spiritual progression for me. You know what I'm saying? So it is now going to the point where I won't eat a food that has any kind of additive if it's not sea salt. Then like they be like mustard or something. Right, you know what I'm saying? A little bit of anything in there is not happening. I take the raw food, and if I didn't cook it, then I usually won't even eat it at this point. The first time that I let somebody actually feed me recently, and it stopped right after that, after I left, was at that Isha Yoga Center. I didn't let anybody, period, for the past 4 years feed me anything. My ex-girlfriend was the last person who cooked any. I didn't like letting her cook for me either. I really like my food a particular way, and I'm very sensitive to energy as well. Another mosquito. So I like to cook a specific way and implement energy in a specific way into my physiological system, the resonance and things like that. I'm highly sensitive to energy. So if somebody cooks my food and I don't like their energy, I'm like, and it's not that I didn't necessarily like it, it's because when your energy reaches a certain point, you want everything to resonate on that frequency. So it doesn't have to be anything wrong with the person themselves that cooked the food. It's like whatever frequency you're resonating on is your thing. But if I meditate like far more than you or something like that, and then my energy is going to have a certain level of calm and level of focus that, like you got to understand the way the dynamics of energy and functionality vibration works, and that even in the Indian culture they won't even let you they won't let you even give them food if if you have a certain kind of look on your face. They won't take it because they don't want that energy. They don't want to eat that energy, you know. Now of course me, I don't. You can walk up to me with any kind of look on your face, and if you give me organic fruits, or obviously I'm not eating fruits right now, but organic vegetables or something like that, I'm just gonna clean it off because I will clean the energy off. But like other people, they are very I'm saying that this is a religious thing. It's not just like me, something that I came up with. That I just won't eat it. It's like no, within my tribe and my tradition, I'm a Nubian. Within our tradition, it's traditional actually for people who have moved to this level of spiritual progression to cook their own foods, or to actually be like with a sage or somebody like that who is well versed in energy, who implements a certain kind of energy into the food. And usually we would be like in the mountains or like somewhere quite secluded, but obviously I live in America. So anyways, I'm going to make the part two. That was just a little background, story, because it's some a little substance on myself is a good thing. It helps for people to be understanding who they're observing and who they're listening to. So there you are. I will be back soon. I hope you enjoyed and learned something, and also more learning to come. I'll be still learning after this. Somebody asked me a serious question, and I want to get to the bottom of it because I've had some symptoms actually that are similar to that. I don't think I have that kind of issue, but at the same time, it'd be nice to deal with those. So, good seeing you.